used to care. Too much. You used to overthink every word, replay every silence, apologize for simply existing. You used to bend until you cracked, just to keep the peace. You were the one who stayed quiet so others could stay comfortable. You were the one who said yes when everything inside you screamed no. But now, you don't feel the same anymore. Something inside you stopped fighting. Not because you gave up, but because you got tired of bleeding for people who never noticed the wound. It didn't happen all at once. First, you cried less. Then, you explained less. Then, one day, you didn't care if they understood you at all. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it always hurt, and you were the only one carrying it. Now you walk away without warning. Now you let the phone ring. Now you sit in silence and feel nothing. And the world calls you cold. But they don't know what it took for you to survive. They don't know how many pieces of yourself you gave away, just to be loved a little longer. You weren't born like this. You were made like this. They broke you, piece by piece, moment by moment, until the part of you that still believed disappeared. And what's left isn't a monster. It's not anger. It's not bitterness. It's not revenge. It's silence. It's the quiet that comes after the storm, when the wreckage no longer shocks you. You still feel, but you don't beg. You still notice, but you don't explain. You still care, but not about proving it. And that's what makes you dangerous now. But here's what no one told you. This version of you, the one who walks away, the one who doesn't flinch, isn't broken. This is the first time you've ever been whole. Because for most of your life, you were taught that caring meant giving more. More of your time, more of your forgiveness, more of your softness, even to those who sharpened their teeth on it. You believed that being loved meant being useful. That to matter, you had to stay small. That silence was maturity, and shrinking was grace. But all it ever did was starve you. And when you stopped caring, when you stopped explaining yourself, overextending yourself, over-apologizing for simply existing, they said you changed. Of course you did. You stopped trying to keep your heart open for people who only came to steal from it. You started choosing silence not as surrender, but as protection. Not as fear, but as sacred distance. Because numbness isn't always emptiness. Sometimes it's armor. Sometimes detachment is the only way to escape a life built on pleasing everyone but yourself. And maybe you didn't plan to become this version of you. Maybe you miss the part of you that used to cry over every small rejection. Maybe you miss the way your chest used to burn when someone misunderstood you. But there's peace in this stillness, isn't there? There's power in not reacting. There's truth in not needing to be seen, not needing to be chosen, not needing to be rescued. Maybe you were never cold. Maybe you were just finally tired of burning. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone who no longer plays the role. The kind one, the patient one, the forgiving one, the one who always answers, the one who always stays. You walked out of the performance, and in that silence, you heard yourself for the first time. This isn't numbness, it's clarity. This isn't heartlessness, it's the reclaiming of your soul. They broke you, yes, but in doing so, they stripped away the version of you that lived on hope and breadcrumbs. And what's left is someone who no longer asks, do they care about me? But instead asks, do I care about me? You're not lost. You're just no longer willing to be found by people who never looked for the real you in the first place. And maybe that's the first time you've ever told the truth. Because this silence you sit in now, it isn't empty. It's honest. It's the kind of quiet that rises when the mask finally cracks, and you no longer rush to fix it. It's the space between the pain and the pretending, the place where you begin to see yourself without the distortion. And in that stillness, someone else was waiting. Not someone to save you, not someone to love you, but someone who understood what this moment actually meant. Carl Jung. He didn't speak to the surface of people. He didn't care for their masks, their roles, their performances. He spoke to the shadow, the part of you that grew in silence, in shame, in self-sacrifice. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And maybe that's what this is. Not numbness, not bitterness, but the moment your unconscious pain stopped driving you, and you finally took the wheel. Because until now, you were living on autopilot, reacting, explaining, fixing, pleasing, trying to earn the love you never learned to give yourself. But Jung saw through that. He knew the soul doesn't heal by being agreeable. It heals by being honest. It heals by meeting the parts of you that were exiled, the anger, the coldness, the boundaries, the detachment. He called it integration, not perfection, not purity, not becoming someone new, but reclaiming all the parts of you you were told to hide. Even the ones they called dangerous, especially the ones they called dangerous. Because maybe those parts, the ones that say no, the ones that don't chase, the ones that protect, are the most sacred of all. And that's what Jung understood better than anyone. That the moment you stop betraying yourself to be accepted, you stop being a puppet. You stop living someone else's story. And for the first time, you step into your own, not with fanfare, not with applause, but with a quiet knowing. I no longer fear being misunderstood. I only fear abandoning myself again. So you sit in your silence, not because you're broken, but because you finally come home to the one person who always stayed. You. But let's go deeper. Because this stillness you've entered, this unfamiliar quiet, it isn't the end. It's the beginning. The beginning of something Carl Jung spoke of again and again, the confrontation with your shadow. Not the dark side the world warns you about, but the side of you that learned to survive by becoming invisible. The shadow is not evil. It's the part of you that was never allowed to exist. The part that got scolded when you spoke up. The part that was called selfish when you had needs. The part that was shamed when you said no. The part that still flinches when someone raises their voice, even if they're not yelling at you. And over time, you learn to hide those parts, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Because love came with conditions. Because safety required silence. Because peace always meant pretending. So you played your role, the good one, the calm one, the agreeable one, the one who keeps the peace, even when your soul is screaming. And now, as you stop caring in the ways they expect, those parts are waking up, not to destroy, but to protect. To remind you of the boundaries you never learned to hold. To teach you that self-respect is not cruelty. To show you that saying no is not betrayal, it's liberation. You were never too much. You were just around people who needed you small. And now, without realizing it, you've begun the work Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole by embracing every part of you. even the angry one, even the detached one, even the one who no longer answers the phone, especially the one who doesn't explain their silence anymore. This is what the world doesn't understand, that your withdrawal isn't rejection, it's restoration, that your coldness isn't cruelty, it's clarity, that your silence isn't rage, it's reclamation. You're not pushing people away, you're pulling yourself back into your own arms. And it hurts, doesn't it? Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally refusing to abandon yourself for love. This is the part no one warns you about. When you stop betraying yourself, the world will try to guilt you back into your old shape. They'll say you're distant. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you used to care more. And they're right. You did care more. About what others thought, about being liked, about keeping the peace. But that peace always came at the cost of your own. Now, you've chosen a different kind of peace, the one that doesn't require explanation, validation, or sacrifice. You've chosen you. And in doing so, you've activated the parts of your psyche that were never allowed to speak. The parts that carry your anger, your grief, your voice, your strength, and yes, your danger. Not the kind that harms, the kind that says, I will not be harmed again. Because your danger isn't violence, it's boundaries. It's the look in your eyes when someone tries to manipulate you, and you don't flinch. It's the silence you hold when they expect your apology, and you offer none. It's the way you walk away now, not to teach them a lesson, but to stop teaching yourself the wrong one. You were never cold. You were never cruel. You were never broken. You were dismembered, pulled apart by expectations, roles, and silent rules no one spoke aloud. And now, piece by piece, you're coming back together, not into the person they remember, but into the person you were always meant to be. Whole, aware, untouchable. Maybe no one told you this before, but that choice, to stop betraying yourself, is the moment your life begins again. Not loudly, not with celebration, but quietly, in the way a wound closes when you stop touching it. In the way peace returns when you no longer argue for your worth. In the way your body exhales when you stop begging to be understood. This is what healing actually looks like. It's not always beautiful. It's not always joyful. Sometimes it's walking away while your heart still aches. Sometimes it's saying no with a voice that trembles. Sometimes it's sitting in a room alone, wondering if you made the right choice, and choosing to stay anyway. Healing is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of self. And you are here now, present, with all of you. The parts they praised, the parts they punished, the parts you hid for so long you forgot they were yours. They're all here now. And they're not too much. They're not too cold. They're not too damaged. They are you. And you, in your fullness, are not a problem to solve. You are a story, reclaiming its own voice. You are a soul stepping out of the performance, walking barefoot into truth. You are the silence that follows a storm, not because the chaos stopped, but because you did. You stopped trying to fix people who refuse to grow. You stopped trying to explain your boundaries to those committed to crossing them. You stopped tying your value to how much you could endure. You stopped waiting to be chosen. And in that stillness, something sacred was born. A knowing. A soft, steady whisper that says, I no longer need to be rescued. I no longer need to be seen to exist. I no longer owe my softness to those who weaponize it, because I have found something deeper than approval, something stronger than validation. I have found myself. And no one can take that from me. Not the ones who left. Not the ones who stayed but never truly saw me. Not even the voice in my head that still echoes their doubts. That voice may still speak. But now, it no longer commands me, because I've made a vow to never abandon myself again, to never lower my voice just to make others feel taller, to never twist myself into someone else's comfort. I choose truth, even when it's lonely. I choose peace, even when it's misunderstood. I choose me, especially when no one else does.